Hello and welcome to the It's All Cobblers To Me preview show. I'm Danny Brothers and I'm here to look forward to the Cobblers home game with Lincoln City in League One this weekend. I've got a couple of guests to help me do that. Of course, representing the Cobblers is Charles Commons. How you doing, Charles?
Hello, I'm good, thank you very much. Football's back.
Well, yes. Well, we thought that last
Been
week
a
as well,
while.
didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, did it really happen?
Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
If you listened to last week's preview show, let us know that you did listen, because obviously there was no point in listening because there was no game.
No. I mean, it was enjoyable chat.
I enjoyed the chat.
Yeah,
it was very good.
It was good fun. But I
Hoping,
think we're
hoping for another one tonight.
Yeah. We'll definitely have that. To give us the lowdown on all things Lincoln, then, is Ben from the Stacey West. How are you doing, Ben?
I'm good, mate, apart from wishing that football might not necessarily be back given our current run of form. But it's all good, football aside.
Nice, good stuff. Start with the Cobblers then, Charles. Obviously been a couple of weeks since a game. Was a part of you fairly happy with that, considering the injury situation?
Yeah, a little part of me. I mean, I will be honest, though. All I could think about was the fact that is going to now mean that later on in the season, there'll be a bit of congestion elsewhere.
A bit of clogging up, yeah.
So, look, obviously it was the right decision to call it off. And I thought it was really good that it was, done the day before, so that therefore nobody had to, even go and de-ice their car, from Barnsley to try and start making the journey. Everybody could just stay in bed and get under the duvet. But if that's what they do in Barnsley, in my head. So yeah, I was happy, but I was also the people that were saying I really hope it's not on. I just thought I want football. I enjoy football. I want to go to football. I don't want it to be cancelled.
You were here as well, weren't you? You were down.
And I was down that weekend anyway. So it was like a game that I was actually going to be able to go to, and it feel like a home game for once.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't look like, we'll talk about it a little bit later, but it doesn't look like the postponement has helped the injury situation at all anyway. So it probably didn't matter that much that it was postponed.
I mean, you say that, but we weren't able to pick up any more injuries.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah, the left back was safe for another week, whoever that was going to be. Maybe it was TJ. I don't know. Very quickly before we come to the match preview, because we have some news today at the East Stand. It's getting closer and closer, it looks like, to being a full East Stand.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a nice little interview with Kelvin in his hard hat on the YouTubes. Really looking positive signs. Looks like it might even be done ahead of time, which for builders, don't want you stereotype, but that's a good job. Get it up there.
Good job. Yeah.
It looks like before the end of the season, people will be settling into the East Stand again. Well, the full East Stand.
I'm looking forward to seeing it open.
Dean
I want to go and have a little tour of it. Because we don't sit in that stand. The reality is that when are we ever actually going to go in it? So there's a part of me that thinks that maybe for a cup competition or friendly next year, I'll buy a ticket for the East Stand just so I can go and have a nosy.
Yeah, go and experience it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure Neil could email Kelvin and get a little private tour.
Well, Neil probably could get anything from Kelvin. He loves emailing him.
He does indeed. Less of that though. Ben, welcome. We were just chatting on your own preview show about your season, about both of our seasons so far. Since we met in October, that 2-1 defeat for us up there on a Tuesday night, I think it was, wasn't it? We had Tyler Roberts sent off. Can you tell us a little bit about your season since we met?
Do I have to?
Yes.
I mean, in terms of the league, I don't know. I think the question that a lot of people are asking at the minute is what's gone wrong? And there isn't necessarily an answer. I think the main thing is just confidence. Like before Christmas last season, or before the January window last season, it was fairly obvious we'd had a striker crisis. We'd had injuries to the strikers, we'd had players that just weren't performing. And it was blatantly obvious that we thought, well, if we can get a striker in, we might be able to turn the season around. Of course, we get a striker in, we go 16 games unbeaten, and we miss out on the playoffs on the final day. I don't think that that's going to happen this season. It's obviously the league, as I'm sure you guys have discussed, has just become a ridiculous playground this season for people with too much money who want to buy a football club and want to try and get to the Premier League. And it's kind of been evidenced by some of our rumoured targets being snapped up for ridiculous money. I mean, obviously, the striker that we got last season, Joe Taylor, we were kind of rumoured to be in for him. Huddersfield came along, went, no, there you go, here's £3 million, and Luton went, yeah, all right, we'll give him to you guys instead. So it's such a bizarre season in so many ways, but I don't know. Like we just seem like we're not playing with any real confidence at the moment. We go from quite possibly the most bizarre result that we've seen this season in the FA Cup when we beat Crawley 4-3, and then a couple of games later, with where are we in the season? We just picking this one. Yeah, we lost away to Shrewsbury not that long later. The thing that a lot of people are saying at the moment is, you need to we need to change the manager, we need to change this, we need to change that. It's like, I think Skubala's got enough credit in the bank to say, within plenty of time, he's obviously building his squad. He's only been there, he's just been there just over a year at this point. But if we want to try and pinpoint one thing in particular that's gone wrong, I don't think we can right now. And that's what I think is frustrating a lot of fans. I still think everything is in place for us to be a decent side. I still think everything's in place for us to, potentially achieve the championship dream in the next few seasons. But the confidence that came from the start of the season this year, obviously we had a blistering start to the season. I think we were up on the top 3, top 4 quite early doors. It was one of those where you thought, okay, maybe this is the season. Maybe that early confidence has ebbed away a little bit to probably more of an accurate spot of where we may be in the table this season, given everything that's gone on. Mm-hmm. So it started well, and then since we beat you guys, it's dropped off a little bit. So whether you want to call that karma or whatever, I don't know.
Because you talked about that absolutely incredible run at the end of last season. You were, I think, I might be wrong, but a lot of neutrals were willing you on and willing you up the table to kind of keep it going and get yourselves in the championship. Do you kind of feel at the end of the season, and I know you started well this season as well, but did you feel at the end of the season a little bit like it was a slightly missed opportunity to not get in the playoffs at the end and to not do it when you've got that much momentum with you?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, we obviously made the playoff final in the COVID season, but that was the season where we had Morgan Rogers and Brennan Johnson playing in the same 11, which, when you say that now, is just ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, I think that was probably a step too far too soon that season. I think if we'd have gone up last season, or if we would have made it into the playoffs at least, we'd have been, obviously with a chance. You're always in a chance in the playoffs. But I don't know. I think it's probably too soon, particularly when you look at the amount of money that's being thrown around everywhere else. I mean, the one thing that I do say when I'm invited onto preview shows is, how I see the club being run is it's kind of held up as a bit of a gold standard by people in the industry. That we don't have any debt, any losses that are made are covered by investments and not loans. We're trying to be as sustainable as we can be, and I think our chairman is one of the best chairmen in the country in the way that he deals with things. So from a financial perspective, I think possibly a bit of a missed opportunity. From a footballing perspective, obviously you want to see your team play as high as they can. But I think if we'd have had, essentially if we'd have had the striker that we had in Joe Taylor for the entire season, there would have been no question that we would have finished at least in the top 6. It was a bit heartbreaking, but there was a moment in that game that I don't think I've seen before, and I don't think I ever will, where Portsmouth went 2-0 up. That was a game we knew that if we won that game, we would be in the playoffs. Portsmouth went 2-0. Their fans went mad. I can't remember which player it was now, but he, ran in front of their players and was, giving it the whole, they're crying. It's like, well, no, we're not. And then out of nowhere, the whole of every single home fan in attendance just started standing up and applauding. And, we've just gone 2-0 down and you're clapping the team. It was just an amazing recognition of everything that they'd done. Mm. Whether it feels like a missed opportunity at this point, I think that might have been our chance for the next 2 or 3 seasons. Mm. But yeah, we'll have to see how it goes. I mean, obviously, one of the big things that we're trying to do is do the whole buy a player young, develop them, sell them for a lot of money. Mm. I think some people may be getting frustrated the fact that that's not happening quickly. And it's like, well, yeah, you're not going to buy a 16-year-old and sell him at 16 and a half for 3 million quid. You know, you've got to spend that time and develop them and actually bring them up through the ranks a little bit. And then towards the end of their contract, that's when you cash in on them. And I think we might be starting to see the fruits of that a little bit. Obviously, we saw 2 players last season in Sorensen and Jensen for a combined total of about £1 million, which wasn't too bad considering they were in the last year of the contracts. I think it might have been our chance for the foreseeable, or at least for this season. I think this season probably way off the table. But yeah, we'll have to see.
It's really interesting what you said about the Portsmouth game. The fans coming together and really recognising that feeling and that kind of sense that you need to keep going this season as well, which you did at the start of the season. That togetherness and that kind of, this is who we are as Lincoln City. What a great achievement that would have been to get into the playoffs. But brilliant that we've done this and brilliant that we've got to this point and come so far, and let's acknowledge that, but keep that kind of heart this season as well. You've dropped down to 12th since playing us. So mid-table at the moment, it's still 9 points off the playoffs, so still doable in that sense. But the surprise to me when I was looking through forums and social media, as you will, was how many people are calling for Michael Skubala to go. Skubala. I think it's Skubala, isn't it? We're going with to go, and this was after a 1-0 defeat to Bolton in the EFL Trophy, which, you know, it doesn't really matter until the later stages, does it? Slightly surprised by that when I'm looking through. Is that a general sense? Do you think it is? Is that just social media kicking off as it will do?
I'd like to think it's social media kicking off. I mean, you know, there have been boos at the ground in recent games. I mean, the ones that really stick out to me was the Rotherham game. We didn't look like ourselves at all. We didn't look like we were a unit. We had no sense of identity. We weren't playing the way that we know that we can. It just felt really flat from start to finish. And there were 2 substitutions made, which genuinely felt a little bit baffling. He took off Jack Moylan and Bailey Cadamartri, who were the 2 players that actually looked like they might do something in the game. You know, some pretty vocal boos throughout. So in terms of a general consensus, I think there's a lot of fans at the moment that are kind of thinking the way that I am, as far as I'm aware, in terms of there's still plenty of credit in the bank. You know, I think we're not necessarily in a crisis. We're just in a bit of a rut. And I think a lot of it is probably social media talk. I think that if we were to turn around and pull the trigger on Skubala and say, right, that's it, thanks for your year and a half, off you go, I think we're making a massive mistake. And I don't think we are a club, or, you know, particularly with our board, I don't think we are that kind of club. You know, we don't hire and fire. Mark Kennedy actually was the only manager in probably about a decade that had been fired. All the rest have either left through genuine mutual consent, you know, for betterment of the club, or have left to go on to another job. So I think it's mainly social media chat. I'm hoping it's mainly social media chat, despite the fact that, yeah, it did start to get a little bit toxic. I mean, we're seeing decent, like the second half against Birmingham in the FA Cup and most of the first half against Bolton. I thought we actually played fairly well. By all accounts, we absolutely dominated the game against Birmingham. Unfortunately, I couldn't go. And it wasn't on telly thanks to ridiculous TV rights. But yeah, by all accounts, we absolutely dominated the game in the second half. We just couldn't find the goal, which seems to be one of our problems at the moment.
Yeah, and it was an absolute worldie to beat to win essentially the second goal, wasn't it? Which is, it's just
ridiculous goal.
This is the difference, isn't it? When you look at teams like Birmingham, and they're almost playing even if they play a second string, they're going to be bringing in international players. And you've got Lyndon Dykes picks up the ball, smacks it, top corner, done. You're like, well, this is,
yeah. I mean, when you lose to a goal like that, you just go, yeah, all right, fine.
So mood in the camp then at the minute, 1 win in 12 in the league coming into the weekend. I think it's 3 from 17 in all competitions. Lincoln fans coming to Sixfields, obviously slightly tentative, slightly worried about what's going to happen. Is the kind of away fan base more positive in terms of if we took the lead, for example, if like you made an error in the first 10 minutes and we took the lead, has it got to the point now where the away fans start to turn, or are they a little bit more understanding than maybe it would have been if it was at home?
I think the away following would be, yeah, a bit more forgiving. By the way, if we do make a mistake in the first 10 minutes and you score, then that's game over. At the moment, like if we concede, it just seems like the heads are dropping. So I hope that doesn't happen. But yeah, I think the away following usually is pretty solid, pretty behind the team, regardless of what happens, unless we are dreadful. But I think that's only really happened once or twice this season, and one of those games was at home. So I think we do travel well. You'll know that we're there, and it'll be it'll be a decent following.
Yeah, I mean, you've only lost a couple of games by sort of 2 or 3 goals. It's mainly been 1-goal games, hasn't it? That you've lost games by. So you've been in games. It's just coming out the wrong side of it a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think at the minute as well, we seem to be beating ourselves. I mean, if you look at a few of our goals recently, like there was obviously the game against Bolton on Tuesday night in the trophy. That was a mistake from the goalkeeper, who is actually our second string keeper that was on loan that we've had to pull back because George Wickens is injured. A couple of weeks ago against Rotherham, I think it was, again, he'd had a really solid game up until one mistake. He makes it's not even a mistake. He goes to punch the ball, doesn't quite get the full contact on it. It's not exclusively down to him, but, just seems to be like there's one mistake in us at the moment, and at this level, if you make that mistake, a lot of teams will take the chance and punish you for it. And yeah, like I say, right now the confidence is so low that I don't feel like if we go behind, then we're in the right headspace to deal with it.
So we'll come on to the game itself in a little bit after the break. Quickly before we break, though, what business do you think you need to do in January? Michael Skubala said wants an experienced striker, obviously trying to kind of go on what you did last season. Is that all you need, or do you think you need a little bit more than that as well?
I think we still need a central defender. We had a bit of an injury crisis in central defence not that long ago. We've got Tom Hamer, who we bought in over the summer. He's looked really good, then got injured. Adam Jackson has just been an absolute warrior for us, and then he got assaulted in the Rotherham game away. I'm still a little bit bitter about that one, as you can probably tell. But yeah, he got absolutely pummeled in that game. Was out for a while. He'd literally just come back from an injury as well. So we've also got Lewis Montsma, who is dealing with he's recovering from his second ACL injury in I think 3 years with us. He's just signed a contract extension because he's come back and he's actually forced his way back into the side. Kind of had to play a couple of games because he's been one of the only central defenders that's been fit. But I think we still need a central defender. And I think the experienced striker, the reason he's saying that is essentially because we've got probably the youngest strike force I've ever seen. We've got Jovan Makama, Freddie Draper, and Bailey Cadamartri. They're all young players. I mean, Ben House is obviously a little bit more experienced, but when you've got 3 very young players trying to lead the line when confidence is low, I think they just need that guiding hand. And by all accounts, it sounds like Tyler Walker was meant to be that character, that player. And unfortunately, Tyler Walker's been back with us for 2 and a bit years, I think. And we've seen him play about 45 minutes of football. He's just been so unlucky with his injuries. And I think, sadly, his Lincoln career's over. So in order to replace him, I think we need that. That's where we're getting this experienced striker talk from.
You mentioned centre-back, Charles. We've got one that formerly of Lincoln that is pulling up all the trees in TJ Ioma. So I was saying on the preview show of the Lincoln preview show how positive he's been, how positive an influence he's been, and potentially Lincoln might look at him and think maybe we've lost something there.
I think they might do potentially. A couple of Lincoln fans that I've spoken to have all been really not upset by the fact that he'd gone, but they're looking at our games to see how well he's getting on, which I think shows or tells you all you need to know really about how Lincoln fans feel about him. I mean, he's been really, really good, hasn't he, for us? I mean, it doesn't matter which position he plays, whether he's fullback or a centre back. He seems pretty solid. He can get the ball down. He can play it a little bit. He knows when to do that and when to just get it clear.
Yeah.
He's been that kind of player. Yet again, he's another one of those free transfer signings that we've made over the past, few years that have come in sort of October time, who you think to yourself, how were you on the free transfer list? How were you not snapped up and taken at the beginning of pre-season by somebody? Obviously, there are reasons why that is the case for different players, and it'll be different reasons depending on who they are. But you do look at it and wonder, what was he doing in that PFA team
Yeah.
that was, playing friendlies to try and get these players in the eyes of managers? Because he's been a player that if we'd have signed him in the summer in pre-season, you'd have gone and said, what a signing that is.
Yeah.
Great. Really happy with that. So for him to come in October, short-term contract that's now been extended, of course, to the end of the year, I'm really happy about that. I would hope that he would be a player that we'd look to maybe give a extension to at the end of this season as well, maybe tying down to a proper contract length.
Yeah. Though he has been playing left back the last couple of weeks, so maybe the curse.
He has, so it's only a matter of time before he breaks his leg. You're right, Danny. Yeah.
Charles, let's get back into the match then, what it might look like on Saturday. 2:00 kickoff. Don't forget, everybody, because of those Saints. What do you expect from the Cobblers then this weekend, Charles? A couple of weeks break. Rustiness we've suffered from for the past in international breaks, haven't we? But do you think Kevin Nolan's going to have had him in and get him focused from the off?
I think that it's going to be a case of maybe small transition from what we saw in the games before. I'm not going to expect too much. But he always said, didn't he, about getting through that really heavy game-laden Christmas period. We just need to do what we need to do to get through it. And then once we get time on the training pitch to actually do stuff, that's when we'll sort of start implementing some, was it fundamentals or was that, I can't remember. Did he use the word fundamentals? Did he go all Keith Curl on us?
That sounds very Keith, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it? I can't remember what words he used, but he was talking about how the first port of call was to get the defence right, to go and get those clean sheets, which we then got 2 on the bounce. And then we can start implementing things further up the pitch, in an attacking sense. So maybe we'll see a little bit more of a pattern in terms of our attacking play, because I think we've relied, and I think it's fair to say this, in those last 3 games, really, we've relied on free kicks and other set pieces like long throws, all of which, by the way, Ben, have been taken from the correct position, just in case you're still hung up on that from last year.
Hey, I'm saying nothing, all right? It's water under the bridge.
Yeah, we've been very agricultural in that sense of utilising those set plays to be our, most threatening form of attack. I wonder whether we'll see something that's in, open play a little bit more of. Like I say, I'm not going to go to Sixfields on Saturday expecting to watch prime Barcelona, but I think that there'll be signs of a revolution.
Revolution?
A Kevin Nolan revolution. A Kevolution? No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that.
I was just looking at the fixtures coming up as well. Obviously, Lincoln at home, tough starts to things now, but then Wickham away, Bolton away, Huddersfield at home, Mansfield away, Wrexham at home in the next month. It's a huge month. And I think if we can come out of that in the same position, 6 points clear of the bottom 4, I think I'll be well happy with that, because that's a tough old run.
Just run through those fixtures again for me, Danny. Lincoln this Saturday. Then
Wickham away, Bolton away.
So Wickham, who are going to be in free fall because they've lost half their squad and their manager. Yeah, okay. Next.
Bolton away.
Well, Ian Evatt.
Ian Evatt's always, or he might be gone by then.
No, I think Ian Evatt's staying for the foreseeable. Just to
he's like a cockroach.
Rub it in all the Bolton Wanderers fans. Yeah, so okay, Bolton away. That's a tough game regardless, but they're Bolton. They'll probably slip up, which is lovely and would be nice. Next,
Huddersfield at home, who we beat earlier in the season. I know you were going to say.
Okay, that's a properly. I would say that's a toughie.
Yeah,
but we're at home.
We're at home.
7-0 win.
Mansfield away, always a sluggy place to go.
Not talking about that, slugs.
And then Wrexham at
4-3 win on penalties.
And Wrexham at home, 12:30 obviously, because it's Wrexham, so that'll be 2.
Yeah, I don't know who that is. Sorry, no idea.
Okay, probably it's not as bad as I thought then. Maybe it's not as bad as I thought.
Yeah, I think that's okay.
Okay, you put my mind at ease then. Good.
If I'm being honest, let's look at it properly. Lincoln at home, opportunity for 3 points based on the form that they're in and how down in the dumps every Lincoln fan that I talk to is at the moment about them and how well they're doing or how well they're not doing. So that's got, I'm never going to turn around and say it's a 3 points in the bag or any nonsense like that, but there's optimism there for me. Wickham. Was that home or away? It must be away, mustn't it? Yeah, toughie. Wycombe are very, very good, and we don't like them, do we? In
No.
terms of their playing style, it just doesn't seem to work. Well, it works very well against us, and we don't seem to be able to combat it the last few times we've played. Win your home games.
Win them all.
Win them. I mean, I have looked at the league table. I know I shouldn't do this. And annoyingly, we've got to that point now where even a win may only see us move up one place.
Oh, that's
how
right,
tight the league was earlier in the season, where one win could catapult you into top half. It's started to string out a little bit now, hasn't it?
I think it's more about the points now this season, though, isn't it? I don't care. Like, if we're 20th and we're sort of 10 points clear of the bottom four, then it's the same difference, isn't it? It's, league position doesn't really matter that much this season. I don't think, as long as you're above the bottom four. But yeah, there we go. Ben, then, coming into this game, how do Lincoln kind of view a trip to Sixfields right now? Because obviously we're a club with clubs that have met each other numerous times over the years in different situations. We've always been around each other. How do Lincoln fans see this as a trip? Do they see it as a tough place to come, or do you kind of look at it and think this is our ideal place to get back on track?
I think anybody falling into the trap of saying it's an ideal place to go to get back on track, I think that's a dangerous thing to say.
And mainly Cobblers fans saying that, I would imagine, if you're on a bad run.
I think most people would probably see it as a winnable game, particularly given our ambition and where we've wanted to be, and what where you guys are. With all the respect in the world, I think it would be one that a lot of Lincoln fans will be looking at, going, we should probably take 3 points from that game. However, as we've discussed, and I think we even said on our preview show at the minute, it's just been such a bizarre time where we can't seem to get any luck or just any goals at the moment. I mean, I think it's been 9 hours since we got a goal that wasn't a penalty, and it's like, well, what can we do at the minute? I completely understand, when Charles says about a lot of Lincoln fans just being down in the dumps and about the current sort of predicament that we're in. I think a lot of it's got to be taken with like the bigger picture of the league and everything else in full context. Like the league this season is so different to the league last season that those that were expecting us to better where we finished last season and maybe finish in the top six, probably a little bit out of their minds at the start of the year. I think I maybe got sucked into the hype a little bit when we were floating around the top three, and it's like, oh, hang on, we might do it this year. And then all of a sudden, some of the results that have come in have been like, yeah, I can see that in on the whole. But then you look at games like the Rotherham game and Stevenage and Crawley when we got absolutely hammered at their place. You think they're not teams that are spending huge amounts of money. Like, what's going on? So I don't know. I've seen enough signs over the past few weeks that we're starting to get the recovery back on track. One thing that I almost feel like we've wanted to go back to how we were playing, like 8 weeks ago, when we were actually looking like a decent side. When we beat Reading, I think that was the point at which a lot of people thought, oh, we're going to springboard from this and we're going to pull it round. But as we've seen, it didn't quite go like that. I've seen a lot of people use the phrase regression. I don't think we're necessarily there. I just think there's something that's not quite clicking at the moment. And when we do click, I mean, the first 20 minutes against Bolton on Tuesday, we looked absolutely brilliant. But then they scored on 22 minutes, and all of a sudden we looked awful again. For big chunks of that game. So I don't know if we can. I don't know if we can spring an early goal, then maybe we'll start to feel a bit more confident about things, and maybe the lads will start to think, no, hang on a minute, yeah, we are professional footballers, and yeah, we can do this. But if we go 1-0 down, if you guys, how's your way to a goal or whatever it is that happens, if we make a mistake, I can just see heads dropping again, and yeah, I'd feel a lot less confident going into half time 1-0 down than I would do at 0-0. I mean, that sounds like a fairly obvious statement to make at the minute. Like, 8 weeks ago, if we went in 1-0 down at half time, I think, oh, we can turn it around in the second half. And right now, as soon as that first goal goes in, a lot of people are just thinking, that's probably it.
So it's like that mentality thing, do you think, from the players?
I think it is. I think there's a bit of hesitation from some of the players because, as I say, a lot of them are quite young. And I wonder if people getting on their backs and everything else isn't necessarily helping them, and maybe that's playing into it. I think some away performances have been better than some of the home performances. I mean, particularly we saw that last season, but I just wonder if there's a mentality thing of we're at home, we should be winning, we're not winning, boo, and then the lads get their heads down and start to doubt themselves a little bit. It's such a tough one to decide because we've clearly got a talented squad, and I still maintain that this is probably the best Lincoln City squad that I've seen in my lifetime, and we've got some players that will go for big money at some point. But right now, I can't figure out what's going wrong.
Let's talk about one of them players then, who I've watched you a couple of times this season, and Ethan Errahan has been stand out every time I've watched you play. Plays in the City midfield role. Charles, you'll love that he's called himself the Rodri role in the Lincoln side. I'm sure that'll perk your interest. So important to you, but is there any chance that he leaves now, or do you think it's going to be an end of the season job for him?
There was a big fear that he was going to leave towards the end of the year. A lot of people were saying, oh, he'll probably be going in January. And then we played Bolton and he talked himself into a red card. He got booked just before half time for giving the ref back chat. And then as the players went off, I think it was 41 minutes he got booked. And then as the players left the field, he continued to give the ref lip, didn't listen when players said to him, Ethan, just walk away. And the ref sent him off at half time. So within 4 minutes, he'd got 2 yellow cards for dissent. And it's like, I don't know if there's a lot of fans that are thinking, oh, cool, well, that's going to put buyers off him. I'm like, it won't do. If you're buying a player, like one stupid mistake like that, that's not going to kill your interest. Like if there's discussions that have been had, they will still be continuing. But it's known, like it is well known at this point. The club have set a valuation for Ethan. If somebody meets that valuation, he's going. And I think the biggest thing is that valuation is probably going to be a club record fee. Whether someone meets it this window, I don't know. If they do, I think the confidence is there in the board and the management team and director of football and everything else to make the right investments so that we can replace him. I mean, we have heard rumours that Sam Clucas is potentially coming back to Lincoln, who was Lincoln lad, born and bred, went to Stoke, had a really good career. Now he's playing at Oldham, I think, in the National League, and the rumours are that he's potentially on his way back to Lincoln. Whether that's as a replacement for Errahan or whether that's we need some more experience in the squad, let's get Sam in. We don't really know. I mean, we don't even know if it's true at this point. But yeah, I mean, Errahan is a key figure in the squad. I think if he goes, it would be a massive blow, but I don't think it's one that we couldn't recover from this season.
And in terms of that replacements as well, have you got that kind of system now where you are, that you mentioned you're quite confident of replacing him, but is there a sense that there's a system in place for like a progression kind of thing for the next person to come in?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's always I mean, we're fortunate in the position that we're in, that we've been able to speak with people at the club on a few occasions. We actually did a past 2 or 3 transfer windows. We've done like a deadline day live, and we've had people from the club come on and talk to us during deadline day, which is always a ridiculous moment. And every time when we've spoken to them at that, it's like, we have a succession plan for everybody in the club. Whether it's the kit man, whether it's the CEO, whether it's a keeper or a striker, there is a succession plan. The target's identified. We know who we want to bring in if they go. So I don't have any worries about that. I think if Ethan goes, then yeah, fair enough. We'll have targets in mind. Obviously, if it all happens on deadline day, then who knows what will happen at that point. But there will be plans in place, and I think it's we've got. There's a sensible amount of decisions made by the club. We're not one to just react to things.
No, it sounds a good place to be, isn't it? I mean, Charles, we've often spoke about Lincoln as a club, as being one to look at and think this is where we want to get to, essentially, as the Cobblers are coming up from League Two, obviously trying to stay in the league. But Lincoln, one of the clubs that you look at and think, yeah, actually, they're doing everything the right way by the looks of it.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, don't forget, we've got to go back a number of years now, I know, but, the big cup run that they had that then paid for the training centre, and things like that. That's what got them in that position in the, there was other elements to it, of course. I'm not trying to...
What's a cup run, by the way? Then?
Yeah, what is a cup run? Who knows? Maybe if we had one, then we'd be able to emulate Lincoln. It's one of those, isn't it, where you just... The reason why I think that Lincoln have done it the right way is because of the fact that they used something that was outside of the projected budget or the expectation for what was going to happen. And that money didn't just sort of go towards, not imaginary stuff, but, stuff down the line that was normal. They did something that would improve the infrastructure of the football club with the idea and the benefit to be better players, better coaching, better talent, basically being able to come through the conveyor belt of Lincoln's football factory, if you like. And it's worked. So far it has worked, and they have got themselves into a position where you would now say that Lincoln City, who I always remember, go back to like the 90s, we played each other in Division 2 a few times.
Proper old battles, weren't they?
Division
Always
2.
Constantly.
Yeah, but I mean, we have been, apart from, following them out of the Football League, we've always been sort of around where they are. And, it's the fact is that now you would have to say that they are probably one, maybe even two steps further up on the stairway of footballness. God knows what I'm saying.
The stairway of footballness. Nice.
The whole point that I'm trying to say is that I think that in terms of where they are now, they are slightly ahead of us. They've taken that next one or two steps. But you've got to recognise the why that they've been able to actually achieve that. And that came from a really, really big, successful cup run that they were then able to invest that money in a really good way that benefited them later on for years and years to come. That 1 year's earnings essentially has made sure that for the next 10 years at least, they would have facilities that would help them to achieve, higher, loftier ambitions. And so far they are doing it. I understand why Lincoln fans are unhappy at the moment with their form, but, they're 12th in a League One that is packed full of ridiculously expensive teams. It's just, I kind of look at it and just go, if I was a Lincoln fan right now, I'd be okay with it. I wouldn't be, I wouldn't be going, oh, this is brilliant, obviously, but
there's a sense of understanding, isn't there? Yeah.
I think that's kind of where I am, to be honest with you. Like we've been in much worse positions. We've obviously been in much better positions. But right now, I mean, to crib a quote from our CEO, he came on our podcast a number of times, and one time we were in a bit of a sticky patch at that point, and we said, what's the feeling in the camp? He said, to be honest, the feeling's good. Like, you've got to know the difference between the weather and the climate. It's like, at the minute, we've got a spell of bad weather, but overall, the climate in the club is pretty good. And that's kind of stuck with me because it's just true at the minute. At the minute, we're in the middle of an absolute shitstorm. And, when that's gone, we're still going to be okay. Like, we're still going to be a club without debt in League One. We're still going to, have an amazing training facility. We're still going to have 8,000 people coming through the gate every week. I don't think there's, I've not got anything wood that I can touch, but I don't think there's any danger of us going down at the minute. We're looking okay. It's just, it might be a consolidation season rather than the one where we go for it.
Yeah.
I think the problem is these days is that
Twitter.
Maybe it's the younger. Well, yes, it is. Yeah, social media is the problem. But I do think that for us as well, like the younger generation who maybe started supporting us fully back in that League Two title winning season. You obviously did that the year before, I think it was, or maybe 2 years before. Those fans are now at the stage where they kind of almost, because that was their first big season of watching us, that's what their expectation got set at. They were like, this is great. Every year, it's going to be brilliant. And then when they find out that actually, no, it's not like that every year. And you've really got to grasp hold of those years when they happen because they don't come around that often. I think it's just the expectation level. Me and Danny, when we started supporting the Cobblers, we were in danger of going out the Football League and, had to hope and pray that Kidderminster couldn't, create a concrete stand out of a wooden one or whatever it was, that the reason why they
I'm
were
sure that was the reason.
unallowed bad pies.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was.
No, not
But-
Kidderminster, not be good.
No, I know it wouldn't have been, but you never know. Maybe there
that's
was
the thing,
one
like-
dodgy pie.
One of the things that I remember vividly from when I was a younger Lincoln fan, and apologies if this is going off on a massive tangent, but like we once had, when ITV Digital went pop, we had a band at the club, sort of drums, trumpets, and all the rest of it, and I was one of the trumpet players in the band, and it was like, we need to do something, and somebody put together a march, and there was the band and then number of 100 people, and we marched through the city centre to try and raise some funds for the club. And it's like, if we hadn't done that, and if our chairman at the time hadn't remortgaged his house, the club would have gone under. And it's moments like that when, without putting the rose tinted glasses on and going, oh, it's all nostalgia. It's moments like that make you realise, actually, at the minute we've got it pretty good.
Yeah. Was the air raid siren as part of that match?
Yeah, so the air raid siren, Lincolnshire was bomber county in the Second World War. So it's kind of a bit, well, I suppose it was a bit like our football when it got introduced. It was a bit Route 1.
Yeah.
But, bomber county, we'll stick an air raid siren in when we get a corner so that they know what's going to hit them.
Is it still there? Is that still?
Yeah, we've actually got 2.
Oh, it's a 2 not.
Yeah, one of them's right behind me as well. It's great.
Lovely stuff. In terms of playing style, then, what can we expect on the pitch on Saturday? Formation, expected lineup and tactics. What's going on? What are we expecting to face on Saturday?
So 3 at the back, wing backs, 3 in midfield, 2 up top. Probably, if we go with the way that we've been playing when we've been looking all right, we'd probably expect to see a slightly more advanced 10. We likely play Jack Moylan in that role, although Tom Bayliss has been looking good since he's come back from injury, so he may well go there. Not too much else has changed recently. The only thing that I would say to expect is probably, and this is really harsh for me to say, but it's kind of all bark, no bite at the minute. We're doing everything right until we get to that final third or that final fifth of the field. It's like, have you seen that meme of the horse where it's really beautifully drawn at the front or the back, and then as it goes further along, it gets worse and worse?
Yeah.
That's kind of our team at the moment, in that when we start, we look amazing. Everything's great until we need to finish, and that's holding us back at the moment. So, yeah, I think when we get it down on the floor, we can play some really, really nice stuff. I say first 20 minutes against Bolton, I thought we were exceptional. We just couldn't put the finishing touch on something. We had 14 shots in the first half against Bolton, 2 on target. So if we can get a shot on target, we'll probably be really happy. If we can get a goal, I think you might hear several of our fans pop, because we're that desperate for a goal at the moment. But I don't think we play bad football. We see a lot of people complaining at the minute about, oh, we're just lumping it forward. We're going to, bypassing the whole midfield. We've had explanations as to why that is, because if we can get the ball forward quickly, as long as we mix it up, if we can get the ball forward quickly, we've got a chance of winning the second ball, because we do tend to press really high with our forwards. I mean, Ben House is one of the best in the league at that. If we can get the ball high up the pitch, possibly cause a mistake, and then at that point we might be able to win the ball back, possibly get a goal. I think we do tend to play some decent football when we're on our day. It's just whether we can be on our day on Saturday.
Nice. And if you were Kevin Nolan then in the Cobblers dressing room, and you had the task of getting us to beat this Lincoln team, what would you be saying to inspire us, and how do we win this game?
Don't bother, lads. Just let them have this one.
That's the best answer we've had on that question.
No, I don't know. I think try and force a mistake at the moment, to be honest. Again, if you guys go ahead, I'm feeling less and less confident at the minute that we can turn it round. But yeah, I just think we've been really good at defending set pieces all the way through the season. We've been decent at scoring set pieces as well. So yeah, I think there's nothing systematically that is going wrong. I think a lot of it's just been individual mistakes, to be honest.
I'm looking forward to Tom Eaves against Porty O'Connor. That's going to be a battle. I'm up there.
Porty O'Connor is a man that would run through a brick wall while on fire, and he would still stay on the pitch. He dislocated his shoulder in the Rotherham game in the first 5 minutes, and he stayed on for the entire game. He's just... Yeah, I suspect he will probably go at the end of the season, if not before, because he's in the last year of his contract. But he's one of those players that even if we got an offer for him tomorrow, I'd keep him till the end of the season because his value's on the pitch.
Yeah, absolutely warrior, isn't he? Yeah.
Phenomenal player.
Yeah. Let's come on to score predictions then to finish off. Charles, you'll be there, I think.
I will. Yes.
TJ goal from a set piece, do you think?
No, I don't know. Possibly. Has he got in the position to have a chance to score?
Yeah, he scored a header somewhere, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. You're right. You're right. Maybe he will. Maybe he will, and he'll do that thing that all former players of clubs when they score against them and not celebrate, and I'll boo him because you should celebrate anyway. It really annoys me. Just you've scored a goal. You might not get many in your career, so you should celebrate all of them.
Celebrate, TJ, before you get injured.
If Lincoln fans get upset at the fact that he celebrated scoring a goal, then I mean,
we shouldn't have let him go. I was gutted when he went.
Yeah. What are you going to go with then, Charles' score prediction?
I will go with I'll go with a 2-1 Cobblers win.
Some of that.
And you know what? All 3 goals to be scored after the 85th minute. What a game that would be.
Oh, I don't think my heart could take that right now.
Nice, I'll have some of that. Ben, what are you going to go with? I know you've predicted one on your preview show. Are you going to stick with the same one?
I think so. Despite all of the doom and gloom at the moment, just think something needs to click. We need to start turning the corner. And I saw enough in the Bolton game to make me think we can do this. So I'm going to go with a 1-0 win, but I'm going to put a little addendum on that and say that it's going to be a goal that will come off someone's arse and it will just trickle across the line and it will be our goal of the month because the other one's a penalty.
Looking forward to it. I don't think it's going to be a classic, but we'll see. I think I said 1-1 on your show, so I'll stick with that. I definitely can't see it being a ding-dong, but we shall see. It might surprise us. Ben, thanks so much for coming on. Do you want to plug your podcast and plug your site before we go?
Yeah, sure. So the podcast is the Stacey West podcast. There's 4 of us. There's myself, Gary, Charlie, and Chris. That's the other person who I literally just recorded with earlier. We tend to put episodes out on a Wednesday and a Sunday. And then the site is staceywest.net, where you'll be able to read a ton of stuff that Gary writes. I'm sure he'll never listen to this, so I don't mind saying that he is a fantastic writer with a great sense of humour. If you want to check out an opposition view, then yeah, he's very honest and doesn't hold his punches.
Lovely stuff. It is a great website as well, so do check that out. And thank you, Charles.
Thanks, Danny. Cheers.
Thank you. Always enjoyable. And good luck to the Cobblers on Saturday. Don't forget, it's a 2 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. Don't get caught out. NTFC women are back in action on Sunday as well. They begin defence of the County Cup, which we won last season. That's taking on Desborough at Kettering Buckluch Academy. I think I said that right. We'll see. And that's a 2 p.m. kickoff as well on Sunday. And that's free entry. So do get on down there to support the team. We'll be back on Monday with our look back on those games as always. Thanks for listening and we'll see you next week.